Hello to our beautiful broker community. This is Broker's Playbook. My name is Simeon Papalias, my co-host Laura Martin, and our very special guest today, Ms. Carolyn Cheng, COO of Royal Lepage, one of our nation's biggest brokerages, and of course, Canada's oldest brokerage. I want to welcome our entire audience here today. I want to welcome Carolyn today, and good day to my co-host. Hi, Laura.
Hey, Simeon, and a special hello to Carolyn Cheng. I love seeing women in the C-suite, not to mention COO of Canada's largest brokerage with 18,000 very productive real estate agents. So I want to just come out swinging and learn about your rise to the top of Royal Lepage. How did that all come about?
And of course, feel free to let our audience know just a little bit about you and just get right into it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Simeon, and thank you, Laura, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with everyone today. So why don't I start with maybe a little bit about what it means to be the COO here at Royal Lepage, and then I can tell you maybe a little bit about my background and how this all happened.
Amazing.
Yeah, so in terms of being the Chief Operating Officer at Royal Lepage, I'd say the role is has three different elements. So there's a strategy element, there's an operations element, and then there's an element of managing the business. So from a strategy perspective, it's my role to have a vision for all the products and services that we offer to each of our clients. So whether that's for the broker owners, for the teams, for the agents, and where we serve the consumer in terms of royallepage.ca. So it's really to say, you know, what should the products and services look like? What do we need to keep on adding? How do we need to improve? So it's that vision.
So it's your role. It's your role
Mhm.
to take care of what the actual agent and broker will need, as well as the client actual experience.
Correct.
Wow.
Now, I would say agents, of course, in the field, you guys are really the primary front line with the consumer. But, you know, to the extent that that royallepage.ca is often, you know, the first interaction that a consumer might have, you know, that's something that we deliver. So that's definitely a partnership in terms of the consumer facing aspect of things. But it's really important to everyone, you know, in the network that we have a really strong website.
Right.
So yeah, that's the strategy part. The operations part is really, you know, having all these products and services is no good if people aren't aware of them and aren't using them. So it's creating the awareness, the usage, and the adoption on all of those services. And we also have a training team that crisscrosses the country used to crisscross the country 2 times a year. Now they do everything virtually. So really training on all of the products and services and how to use them, you know, in the environment that we have today. And then we also have a customer care group. So of course we're out there, we're training, but you know, afterwards there's probably questions. So we want to have inbound support for all of our brokers, agents, and administrators. And then finally, the last element is really working with Phil, our CEO that you all know, our CFO, and it's really the business planning process. So just like you all hopefully do, you know, in terms of building out your next year, we all work together to build out, you know, what's happening in the industry, what do we need to do for next year, and then how do we, you know, manage the budget so that we do everything in a way that works for all of our different stakeholders. So that's the role of a COO at a real estate franchising company in Canada.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I would like to kind of set the ground for what's next, and I know Laura, in anticipation of this webcast, wants to get your backstory, A, from a woman to woman, B, from a visible minority to a visible minority, and C, as a business leader, period. So I am gonna, of course, give her all the ground and give you as a guest all the ground to expand on that. But for our audience, above and beyond the inspiration that you truly are, Carolyn, the broker's playbook portion of this, which is the actual value points to an agent to be able to implement immediately and get value from this webcast, are going to be surrounding technology. And that's online lead generation, tools available to, for example, Royal Lepage brokers, and you can speak to the industry as a whole, of course. This isn't about Remax, Century 21, Royal Lepage, but I am a Royal Lepager personally, and I have access to you quite easily, which is this is a privilege for me. But you can share what you're doing for Royal LePage and what agents they'll know what their channels have in store for them, and they can
Yep.
compare those and make sure that they are on the leading edge of technology, because today's consumer is savvy. So I don't want to go into that quite yet. I want Laura to go down the path that she really had an intrigue on, which is the personal component. But to our audience, we are going to be going into technology heavy today. So please get your notepads and be ready to take some notes on that as well. Laura, go ahead, girl.
I mean, first of all, how long, you don't look that old. I mean, how long have you been in business?
I started my professional career, I guess, in 1995.
Okay.
But in terms of real estate, I joined the Brookfield family in 2000.
Okay.
So I've been with Brookfield Lepage for 20 years now.
So you started as a real estate agent and worked your way up
No.
to COO? Like, tell me about the path.
Yeah, good question. Okay, so I did my undergraduate in business, and I didn't find that I was so keen on any one functional area. So I went into consulting because I liked the multidisciplinary approach. And I actually found, you know, you're so impatient when you're young, you think you're learning nothing, but it was actually such an amazing learning place for everything that I do now. So they taught us everything from research to process definition to re-engineering to strategy, you know, project management, change management, stakeholder management. They're all the things that you need in just, I think, a general business perspective. I then went on to do a master's in international relations, but I stayed in touch with colleagues. So, you know, networking, everybody knows it's super important. And he hired me into the Brookfield set of companies to work on an incubator of sorts. So it was looking at how do we expand Brookfield's interest in residential real estate. So I did that for 3 years, and then Brookfield said, okay, you know, we've done a lot of growing. We really want everybody in the strategy group to go into one of the operational businesses to, you know, help grow each of those businesses. And at the time, you know, of all the businesses, Royal LePage just appealed to me the most. Like, I really need to work for an industry where I can relate to it, and I feel like, you know, we're having an impact on people's daily lives. And, you know, real estate, it's such a huge part of every family's, you know, life, their dreams, etc. So that's how I started here at Royal LePage. And I started off with the product development portfolio, but then literally within, I think, a month of starting, I ended up also with training and customer care. So, you know, you kind of, yeah, you kind of flow with it. And then
Here,
really
take this on too.
Also this. No big deal.
yeah, no big deal. So yeah, I learned to say no big deal after a while. And so then really the portfolio has just kind of grown and grown and grown. And what I would say to people, you know, in terms of how to grow your career, at least in our context, and I do think that it probably has applicability elsewhere, you know, it's really important. You know, this is a bit cliched, but I think it's incredibly important. You have to find an organization whose values and cultures align with your own, and where you really like the people. At the end of the day, you're going to spend more time at work, and you're going to be more successful, want to work hard, and spend more time there if you fundamentally like the people and the culture, and that there's no conflict. I mean, of course, I can
It's
manage
absolutely
conflict.
true. It's absolutely true.
Yeah, if there's conflict, now you've got to think about how you're going to manage through the conflict. If you don't have to think about that, you're going to be more successful. Secondly, I would say, you know, once you get the job, you've got to really work hard, do a great job, really prove yourself. But it's not only about the work, it's also about the people. So you've got to build relationships. If you're junior, you know, find a mentor, somebody that's really going to help you through the ropes. If you're in a more senior position, you know, you've got to build relationships with your team, your peers, and those that are more senior to you. You know, in order to get promoted, you're going to need advocates. And you really want people, though, at the end of the day to say, hey, that was really well deserved. And you want them to mean it, right?
So question, talking about, wait, no, go talk about your third one.
Oh,
There's three.
okay. Oh, okay, yeah, sorry. So third, I would say, and this has really probably been the key for me in this organization and in smaller organizations where you don't necessarily have like a defined career path. Like in a consulting company, there's 5 levels and it's you're up or you're out, right? It's very well defined. In smaller companies, it's more like you have to find the opportunities, for instance. So once I had kind of, mastered what I was initially given, then I'm just somebody that really likes continuous learning, continuous improvement. So I'm like, what could I do next? Or what other opportunities are there? And it's easier in my job to do that because I'm always looking for the next thing that we've got to do to keep ahead of the curve. So, I would look for new opportunities, I would try them on. And really, in our organization, and everybody will have to understand the organization that they're in, it's kind of like you do the next job before you get the next job.
That's
And
right.
so there was a little bit of that. And then once I really felt that I was working at that next level, I felt very comfortable. And this is where I think the key is you need to be your own best advocate, right? And if you fundamentally believe that you're doing the job that's needed, and there is a marriage between what the company requires and what you're doing, then I think you're perfectly in your rights to go advocate for what that next role is. And at Royal Lepage, for me, I think almost every promotion I had was kind of a new job. So it was kind of saying, what does this organization need? How can I be most helpful? And then, I think the other thing that's really important is you need to identify the need, have the vision for it within the organization, but then really understand what the cycle of the organization is, right? So, some organizations might have an annual cycle. So understand what that is, get ahead of that timing. Understand that, hey, maybe you think you're ready, but the organization says, oh, well, you actually still need to do X, Y, and Z. So maybe it'll take 6 months if you're entirely ready and it fits within the cycle. Maybe it'll take 18 months because there's things you need to work on, and then it'll be in the next cycle. And then I think the final thing I'd say is, be attuned to the language of the organization. I know when I first started, I might have been a little more hot-headed. And corporate culture is a little more even. And so really understanding, it's not just the message, it's how you deliver the message. So
For
be
sure.
attuned to what works in the organization. And that's what I would say, for anyone is kind of the recipe for success.
That's amazing. So I cannot believe how aligned our paths have been, in the sense that there's the fact that we both created our own job descriptions. Like I literally created the role and the job description
And that goes
my
directly
contract.
and that goes directly back to the comment. In order to create, in order to be the role, you have to create and do the role.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't go in and say, I'll do this for you, right? I literally just started doing the things in that job description that said, hey, actually, this sounds like I'm doing this operating policy management, or like I'm, doing your business development management, or this or that. And like you, I was always very proactive, looking ahead, finding out, ways that we could improve efficiencies and processes, or just, new markets to penetrate and things like that. And I've never been shy about, my own advocacy. And it does, I feel like women feel like they're, not, I guess women are basically trained to be humble. And no one likes people that are like bragging or boasting. And so we don't want to be boastful, but that's actually to our detriment, because how are people going to really pick up on the hard work that we're doing if we don't mention it, right? It's not like they're watching us and like, they're ready to praise you at any given moment, right? Like you kind of need to seek that out. And then the best part, I think, is the point you mentioned on, mentorship and really being strategic about aligning yourself with people in higher and lower and everywhere positions in the company. But so my question to you is, did you have any women mentors? And because you have to have people that go to bat from you, and usually people in the C-suite or the decision makers are men, right? So did you seek out a male mentor or women mentors, or both? Or, what was the role that played in your growth?
Yeah, so I would say I probably have had both. So when I first joined the organization, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but I was not a tech person. But I think that in those days, you didn't have to have that background as long as you were analytical. You know, you could do the tech role from a business standpoint.
Right.
Not if I was IT in terms of hardware, infrastructure, security. No, I think you need an education for that.
No.
But so at the beginning, Sandra Webb, who many of you who are Royal Lepagers may know, she was originally in more of a tech role. And so we were partnered at the beginning, and she was definitely more seasoned than me. And she, you know, really gave me great advice and was a huge advocate for me. So I definitely have Sandra Webb to thank for showing me the ropes in the early days. And then I would say that, you know, Phil Soper, for all of you that know Phil, our CEO, he's always been a really great advocate. And one of the things that I had asked him in the early days was, you know, could I get a business coach? And he was super supportive in that front. And, you know, he was obviously the person that I had to go to say, hey, you know, I think here's some great business needs that we have, and I can do this as well. And so he's always been a huge supporter along the way. So I'd say those were probably, you know, the big mentors that I had. But I think we're also super lucky at Royal Lepage because, you know, ever since I joined, so some 17 years ago now, I think at Royal Lepage, the senior team has always been about 50-50%, you know, male, female in terms of the gender ratio. So there's always been such a positive example. You know, I don't think that any person in the organization thinks it's a barrier to getting to a senior leadership position at Royal Lepage. So I know we're in our industry, we're pretty lucky, you know, in terms of the agents. It probably slightly skews towards women. And then I heard Simeon on another podcast say that our top producers skews women, and our senior leadership team is very balanced. So we are really lucky to have those leadership examples in the industry.
Well, I
Yeah,
think other companies should take note that, you know, like you don't need to worry about, hey, can we be innovative? Can we be creative? And can we be competitive? If you simply have even and diverse leadership, you're going to be those things because you have different perspectives and skills in the room.
And I have said this before, and I will say it again, in this country, in this city, in 2020, unless you do have that diversity, from a cultural background, from a sex background, from a faith background, from a cultural and business background, you will not get that result. Royal Lepage is the biggest company in this country because it is the most inclusive environment in the country. And I beg anyone to challenge me on that, because you can't. Because I know, because I'm in this business. We've been in at the helm of the broker production for a long time. And if you look at my team, which is right now the number one team in the entire country from a transactional volume standpoint, I am going to say that it does skew the women from a results standpoint. From a numbers, we're like directly maybe 55-45% to men, but it's damn equal, and that just fluctuates with our turnover. But like our business strategy is inclusive of cultures of our clients, from their every single life component is extremely inclusive on our team, from gay, man, woman, black, brown, white, Mediterranean. I don't care who you are and what you are, you're going to find your tribe on my tribe. That is my tribe. And it's by intent, and it's with dogma that we go down this path. So Laura Martin, which I know believes fundamentally in what I believe in, and Carolyn, obviously you've been blessed to be a part of a management team that values diversity and women in the workplace. It's so refreshing. It is so refreshing to hear. Good for you, and good for Royal Lepage.
And great to hear about your team as well. Not a surprise at all, of course.
Well, Laura Martin, speak of your team. What is it comprised of?
Yeah, so I'm the COO of Matrix Mortgage Global. We're Canada's largest mortgage brokerage. We're right across Canada, and 80% of our business is private lending. So we're the largest private lending brokerage in Canada. The CEO and founder, Sean Allen, is Guyanese Canadian. His wife, Carla Allen, is Jamaican Canadian. I am Canadian. My mother is Jamaican. My father's Irish. And
oh, wow.
I would say that our team is 60% women and probably, like 70% visible minorities. So
Wow.
I
Phenomenal.
don't know how that happened. But we happen to also be the best. And I don't think that it's a surprise that I really got my chance in an organization like this. I think that I would have had barriers to entry if I did go through, traditional routes, or, if I didn't have good old nepotism working for me. Like, I've known Sean Allen for 10, 11 years. So he trusted me to run his ship. And that's really useful. And he didn't let the fact that I was young, or that, I didn't look like a leader, which we know people think to be a leader is to be a white male, right? So I didn't look like that, and it didn't matter. And I think that people like us are really changing the face of leadership, and it's so important that we're visible, and that we're running top companies, and that we're vocal about, our strength is that we are diverse. So yeah, I think that's fantastic. And it's really heartening to hear your coming up story and Royal Lepage's success. So
I
let's
love
now
that.
talk about the secret sauce to moving forward and dominating, aside from what you look like and who you are.
Laura Martin, did you get your fix?
Yeah, good.
So did I. It actually, it truly pleases me to talk about this. It really does. So yeah, I'm definitely ready to hear, Carolyn, kind of your yourself and your organization, your strategy of what you've done in the last 6 months, to kind of get the agents up to speed from a technology standpoint. What should an agent in today's market, whether they're mortgage or real estate, we're looking at the same client at the end of the day. What should an agent be looking for from a technology standpoint in order to be able to differentiate themselves in the marketplace?
Yeah, great question. So as part of my role, the main thing I do when we're looking at strategy is, going out to lots of the conferences, understanding what the trends are, what's coming, and then how to make that relevant for brokers, teams, and agents. So I just thought I'd touch on a few of the trends before I get into kind of the playbook.
Sure.
So yeah, I'd say in the last few years, for anybody that does follow tech and follows Inman News, it's kind of the big North American, real estate to technology magazine or online website. What
And they
they'll
put the
have
biggest
seen,
conference on the planet together. So,
yeah,
so the biggest
absolutely,
especially prop
tech,
tech,
yeah.
they're, yeah.
Yeah. So what they'll have seen is in the last 3 years, there's been an incredible amount of investment from venture capitalists into real estate technology. And I think it's because, it's obviously a huge industry, but it's also an industry that really hasn't had the full technology innovation that some other industries have had. And in the early days, I wouldn't say that necessarily, we saw a lot of practical useful application, but now it's kind of matured to a point where we really have. And you can actually find partners out there that can give a fully end-to-end digital solution for the brokerage, the team, and the agent for every technology system that they need. So everything from a website to organic and paid lead generation tools, to a CRM, to automated listings marketing, and then integrating if your brokerage has a digital front desk, if your brokerage has a digital electronic document management system. So it's kind of the holy grail where you can have the customer come in online, or you enter them from your other sources, and then they run through the entire system digitally right through to close, where you can even have the information coming back and forth from the broker's document management system into your CRM, so you can keep track of how the close is tracking. And so to be able to see your entire business flow from beginning to end, and then to not have any of the administration that's required, because so much of it is automated. To me, I think agents, we really love to be with people, and the people aspect of the transaction. The administration stuff is probably not our favorite. So to the extent that everything is digital and integrated, that's really what we wanted to be able to deliver. And I think it's a huge inflection point in the industry where, your leading companies are really making these kinds of investments to help their brokers, their teams, and their agents. So that's trend number one. Trend number 2 is within those ecosystems, now there's so much more automation. And there's also the use of artificial intelligence and machine learning. You'll hear those keywords a lot. But it's basically saying, you know, we're automating a lot of stuff that you used to have to do manually. So for instance, for a consumer and driving inquiries on your website, we can see when a person comes, but they don't necessarily, you know, submit an inquiry. We can see when they come again and they don't do that. So what we start doing is when they come frequently, we push them a proactive form. By doing that, the chances of them submitting an inquiry are 3 times as high.
Nice.
So we're doing lots of things like that to really, you know, get more inquiries out. Exactly. And then, you know, once they come into the system, instead of you having to put them onto some smart campaign or drip campaign, now we automatically do that for you. Now we create ones as defaults, but if you want to create your own, and it can be a combination of email, text, phone call, whatever it is that you feel is appropriate. I heard Jazz say 30 touches, right? So, you know, all of that happens. And what agents are telling us that are using this is they have this huge aha moment. So, you know, in person, you know, you can only show a buyer so many houses. You can only do as many listing appointments. Like, you know, it's probably a handful of people you can serve at once. But now this system, maybe if you have 500 prospects in your database, it's automatically nurturing every single one of them so that when people call you, now they're warm leads or hot leads.
Yeah.
So the CRM is no longer a digital Rolodex. It's a living, breathing, organic thing that's serving you up warm and hot leads. And when you call them, because they've been on your website, you have all the data, you know everything they've done, you know the listing that they want to talk about, you're so much more informed. You have the confidence that you know you're serving their best interests. So now it's a far more dynamic tool.
So did you guys create this CRM? Like, did you go and invest like the zillions of dollars to do this, or were you relying on Salesforce mods?
So we partnered with a company called Inside Real Estate, and their tool, I guess their standard tool is called KV Core. But what we did is we really went in and Canadianized it and branded it. So we made sure that it was Castle compliant, privacy compliant,
Right.
all the regulatory compliance. You know, although Americans and Canadians are reasonably close, their language is a little more aggressive than ours. So we Canadianized all the language, we made it more Canadian consumer friendly, and we created a whole bunch of Royal Lepage branded content. And then all of the partners that we have that many of our brokers and teams and agents use, we integrated them into the marketplace. So it's a fully Royal Lepageized, Canadianized solution.
That's fantastic.
So I do want to make a point to it, because you spoke of artificial intelligence and you called this this system, this ecosystem, really a living, breathing thing. I will speak from my personal experience, as because I do believe we have a team that lives at the leading edge at all times. I've been ahead of what you guys are working on many times in my career, because I simply, as a self-employed person, an entrepreneur, I'm not going to wait for anyone to put efforts forward. In this case specifically, when I was in Portugal, actually on the Royal Lepage retreat, I met with Carolyn directly, and she told me about some of the things she was working on, and I was just completely out of touch because we're always in our own world trying to figure the world out.
Right.
And she told me about this initiative, and I was just like, okay, I'm listening. Tell me more. And now that we've implemented, we're in practice. When we're talking about a living thing, imagine being able to text 500 people instantly. And as those people get your message and at their own time, take a look at the assets and resources that live within your ecosystem, or is data aggregated from the net that you didn't have to get at all, and they were able to answer their questions, and they text you back, yes, Simeon, I would like to get that package out to you right away. And this is happening. I would do, I'm not going to do a live demo. This isn't about the technology itself, but what I will say, and what I will swear to our entire audience, and this isn't in PS, not to rain on Carolyn's parade. It's not the only technology that does this. The major competitor would be Sync. If anybody's looking for the tip, because this is about giving you tips. So if you're
Yep.
with Century 21 or Remix, I don't care where you are, you can get a wholesome ecosystem, and you can get it directly from KV Core and build it yourself. You can go to Sync and build it yourself. You can, if you're with Royal Lepage, you could get it through Royal Lepage where it's already 90% built for you. But regardless, that's not going to make a difference. The point is the technology is there. So for anyone who is wishing to understand more of how far this tech has become and how important it is, I think you should really, really look into it. These are the points you need to be writing down.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Definitely. So the third trend, oh, sorry, Simeon, I think your volume's off. Oh, okay, sorry. Okay. So the third trend, which, we've kind of addressed a little bit, is online lead generation. And I know your team has been doing this for a long time. Royal Lepage, we've been, playing with multiple different programs since 2006. But, it's really important to deliver leads. And as we have even experienced agents starting to use some of these tools, they're starting to realize, they're like, oh my gosh, I wasn't doing this before. But this is where walk-ins have gone. Oh, actually, when I do this, I'm actually even engaging and finding reasons to reach out to past clients. So for online lead generation, we just think it's really important to supplement that with all of your other sources. And we want it, everything that we do on royallepage.ca, we want to be able to offer to brokers, teams, and agents as well. And then finally, I would say, in the world now, there is so much interesting data out there. But the data, it's not interesting unless you make it interesting for consumers. And we all want to offer great content like you guys do on your podcast, but also really interesting tools. And so on royallepage.ca, we've taken data from different sources to build search by travel time, search by school catchment area, which was a big hit last year. We've also taken, like we almost have a dating kind of matching service on royallepage.ca. So when you search, say you search for, Toronto $1 million homes, you get 500 hits, say. So you want to sort them. So we have a menu system that says, oh, well, okay, so say you're young and single. You want to have nightlife. You want to have, great parks around you. You want to have restaurants. So then you pick those, and then you see every single listing sorted with a ranking. That's a 10, that's a 7, that's a 4. Okay. So it's, if you are in if you're family, you want to have quiet areas, you want to have it car accessible so that you can drive. There's all these different criteria that you can select so that you get a match. So it helps you filter through all of the listings. So there's so many interesting data sources, and we want to make them into tools that are really interesting for consumers. And now we also have the ability to do some of that and make some of it available also at the broker, agent, and team level as well. So I'd say those are the big 4 trends that we've been tracking, broadly speaking in the industry, and incorporating into the tools and services that we offer, just as I'm sure, like Simeon said, many of the other franchisors and or brokerages are doing as well.
For sure.
So yeah, those are.
I read a crazy stat, which is that 81% of millennials made their home purchasing decision in terms of either finding the house or the agent through an app.
Wow.
So this just goes to show, like why you are so focused on technology, because it really is going to be like the hinging point. Consumers can really go a long way with their home search through technology. And as a real estate agent, you just need to be able to sort of take it home from there and be in the space that they currently are already.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. And to make a further point to technology, like my personal problem, because I'm not on the street as much as I used to be selling homes, or in my case, commercial real estate. I do most of my work, 90% of my work is done through the office, and I have my trusted VPs that take care of my listings, and I consult as necessary. But I will tell you, from a technology standpoint, myself, my director of team operations, Bobby, we sat down with a technology firm here in the city, and developed a proprietary app, what used to be called an intranet, which was
Okay.
the office internet where you can share and collaborate, etc. But nobody's at the office anymore, whether it's because of the pandemic or because of our job being consistently mobile. I needed to find a way above and beyond using WhatsApp or a Facebook group to communicate with my agents and give data down. So as a team leader and a founder inside our organization, I needed to get my message across. So when I speak with Carolyn, when I speak with Laura from the mortgage company, and Laura sends me resources for my agents, how do I instantly get it out? How do I update everyone at the same time about a training coming up? How do I get them their social media content without them having to make 30 separate requests to our design department? What we did is we consolidated all that.
Right.
What we did is we created an app called the REC app. It's a web-based app, so I don't care if you're on your phone or on your computer, you don't got to download shit. So you literally directly go, it's a web app, meaning you save to your screen on your phone, you open it, and you have over 300 social media posts that are custom to REC, but when you post them, it's your post. So it's not a picture of me. My team is not Simeon driven, it's REC driven. It's a message and ethos. And you're able to hop on and you're able to send a message. If you're with your client, you just visit 123 Anywhere Street, and Laura Mark, my client, says, you know what, this is the house for me, let's put an offer. You can literally put in the MLS number, put in Laura's name, her information, her deposit amount, her offer amount, what clauses, click, 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 press submit, and within 1 hour, you're going to have DocuSign documents delivered to your client inside the car.
That's amazing.
So whether you're depending on your brokerage to get your technology advancement, or whether you have the luxury like we do, because I have a business partner who runs the other half of our business. So this isn't a one-man show. This is a almost a 40-man show. Like our team members are partners. They're not staff or people who direct to who report to me. So when you have respect, understanding, and strategy at every level, and this is what every broker should be living. And if you're not, you should seek out how to get there. Because I'm not the only game in town. I know of at least 24 of my colleagues who have massive and respectable practices, whether they're a Remax or Century 21 or right at home. So this isn't a Royal Lepage thing or a me thing. This is the people who are at the top have the vision and the leadership to know that using technology empowers your team. Having these things at your fingertips is going to allow you to speak, just like I need to speak to 40 people at a time. They need to speak to their 500 clients at a time.
Right.
And then you're going to call your top 20 who make a move, who identify themselves as interested. You can do a people who read. So instead of calling everybody, the 200 people, how about you call the 80 people who opened the email first, because you know who opened it.
Yep, absolutely.
Technology allows you to do these things. So I'm very thankful for everything. Laura, I really want you to get down to some points that you think are very relevant to your mortgage broker world.
Well, there's been a number of new CRMs out through different brokerage entities. There's Door, there's Finmo, there's stuff to make the mortgage application process, higher converting than just, boring forms, and that can involve breaking into little chunks. So it's not like a long form, but like, okay, these 2 questions, next page, these 3 questions, next page. I think that the real next step is integrating socials with the CRM. And so like if future forward, I know this is sort of random and I guess, I don't know, conceptual, but I think that the next big step for CRMs would be, okay, so if I can find someone through my website, right? And if I have data on them, let's say they fill it out and I have their email, if that CRM could go and find them on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn and link me into them like that, that would be
So they are starting to do that. So I mean, I won't just say our tool. Some other tools may have this.
Yeah.
It's right away. So when the lead comes in, there's a validation process.
Mhm.
So they go out and they scour the internet. They bring in, if you've got a Facebook account, an Instagram account, a Twitter account. If they actually find there's actually better information even on the name, they'll give you an update. And then it will rank the quality of that information. So that's what the system does.
The future is here.
Okay, so let's
You
say
dream
that
it, we'll make it.
let's say that all this scares the crap out of a broker that's been around for 20 or 30 years. And they're like, so what do they do? Do they hire someone basically? Like, I feel like, how do you stay competitive if you are a bit of a technophobe?
Well, I think
around this, is there? Like, you really kind of just need to hire a millennial and say, sort it out, or what? Like,
I think that there's a couple of different approaches. So in interviewing a lot of our brokers across the country, many of them have training staff, or the brokers themselves do the training, and they'll do group training, they'll do small group training, they'll do one-on-one group training. And these systems are large and complex. You can't really just kind of hop on and be like, boom, I'm off to the races. You actually need a little bit of training because it's all in the setup. Once it's set up, it's off to the races, but getting the setup is pretty critical. So if you're not tech focused yourself and, taking the training and doing it by yourself, that's not everyone, then I would look to your brokerage to really help you. A lot of them have really great training staff to help you. And then the last option is really, there are third parties out there that will, help you with your setup. But it's definitely better if you, after it's set up, that you kind of understand what you need to do and that you aren't fully just reliant on that third party the entire time.
Okay, so invest the time in the training. It's absolutely trainable. It's not like anyone was born knowing how to,
Right.
optimize their SEO or whatever. So
yeah. We don't expect that.
And I will tell you right now, at the end of the day, this is 2020. If any broker is still fighting technology change, I'm tried so hard today not to use foul language. So I'm not going to use foul language now.
Not today,
I'm going to tell you to go kick rocks. Go, buddy, kick rocks. If you don't have the time, just don't complain. So if you don't want online leads, don't do the technology things. If you're happy with where you are and your client base, great. But if you want to compete against me and thousands of others just like me, you're going to have to train yourself, either pay consultants or outsource. Do what you need to do to stay competitive. In 5 years from now and in 10 years from now, this conversation is going to be a joke. You won't even be able to play it because there is nothing but. So if we keep going virtual for another 6 months, 6 months is in business is like 10 years in real life. People are out there to take over.
Yeah.
Venture capital is pouring in to leverage an opportunity such as the pandemic to actually automate an industry that has been resistant to change for the last 20 years, being the real estate industry. People are investing millions to get the attention of the consumer. And you're going to go out and speak to 5 people and think you can compete? No, my friend, you need technology and you need to get your head wrapped around it. So I think that's where I'm going to leave Broker's Playbook today.
Thank you so much. That was awesome.